remember this as the day you sailed with the Skull Rock podcast. Proceed at your own risk and mark well me words, ladies. Dead men tell no tale. Aye, ladies, remember this as the day you sailed with the Skull Rock podcast. Proceed at your own risk and mark well me words, ladies. Dead men tell no tale.
Skull Rock Podcast, a show about all things Disney, live at Animation Y'all Expo 2026. Dave, how are you?
I'm doing very well. This is Dave Bossert, your friendly artist, filmmaker, and author here at the Animation Y'all Festival Expo, I should say, Expo, here in Nashville. Once again, Aljon and I are in the same room together.
I can't believe it. I know, right?
This is the second time.
I can't believe it. I love it. So anyway, it's been great. Day 2 right now as we record this. VIPs are in, kind of perusing. There's an artist alley. There's all kinds of great art. We have a lot of your Disney friends, a lot of people that have been on this show before in the past that are here to meet fans.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's a who's who of Skull Rock podcast interviews and of the animation industry, because you got Andreas Deja, you got John Pomeroy, you've got Aaron Blaze, Matt O'Callahan, Steve Anderson, the Bancroft brothers, who, of course, are putting on this expo. And the list goes on. I'm trying to think of who else I mean, I'm sure I'm leaving somebody out, and I apologize, but I mean, I keep running into people. Presentation on the 40th anniversary of An American Tale.
Oh, yeah.
He had the voice of Fievel there, and he was kind enough to give me a shout out because I had done some work on that film. I can't believe it's been 40 years. It's crazy.
I can't believe it either. And you've often credited An American Tale being the kickoff of this Disney Renaissance.
Yeah, I have. I when people, when I talk about the Disney Renaissance, I think the beginning of it was An American Tale, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and Little Mermaid.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's like those 3 films from that period, because, you go from 86 to 89.
I feel like the Don Bluth films really are Disney adjacent because all of you guys worked on those films.
Well, and not only that, it was, Don Bluth and John Pomeroy and Gary Goldman all worked at Disney.
Right.
And so, they all had left and started their own studio because they were sort of feeling like they were in a creative rut. Yes, it is. Look at that. I'm doing a sale right here. There. Please take one. We just sold a bottle of the Skull Rock podcast hot sauce.
Yeah.
So there you have it,
Hello, Dave and Aljon. It is great to be back. Thank you for including me this National Poetry Month. I'm, of course, proud to be the Poet Laureate of the Skull Rock podcast. I wanted to bring a poem this week that is not in At the Corner of Fantasy in Maine. This poem I wrote after the book got published. So, if there's ever a volume 2, this will feature prominently. I wanted to bring this one because I was just at Disneyland last weekend. My daughter's looking at a college nearby, so that was fun and exciting. Though if she goes to that college, I may be in trouble, seeing as anytime I visit her, I'll be within 30 minutes of Disneyland. It's a little easier in Nebraska not to spend as much money. So, in any case, this poem is called Churro Sestina, and a sestina is one of my favorite kinds of poetry. It is a form of poem that is 7 stanzas long and depends on 6 words that repeat. It's half math, half poetry. You can write the first stanza, and then you just have to follow the poem where it goes, because you use the same end words of each of the 6 lines in that first stanza. in a pattern as they repeat 6 more times. So the end words are Disneyland, churros, castle, mouse, popcorn, and reason. And anytime you start a sestina, you have to mess with the words until you get it right, so it doesn't veer off the rails. So, churros sestina. When you went to Disneyland, you fell in love with churros. More than the castle, more than the mouse, more than corn dogs or popcorn. There is a reason there's a churro cart every 100 or so yards, a reason there's a certain layout to Disneyland, which isn't centered on popcorn, where all roads lead to a churro. As you pass rides and musicians and Mickey Mouse, with the castle in sunlight, the castle lit with fireworks, all reasons as black and white as Steamboat Willie's mouse. Because this, in Disneyland, is the land of the churro. Not that turkey leg or popped corn or cobbed corn or mayo-swaddled spiced corn. The true princess of the spires of this castle is Princess Churro. She is the reason that Disneyland shines, not the mouse, poor popcorn. Disneyland is more than mountains and castles and reasons to spend pocket change. It's about churros. It all comes back to churros, though the placards all smile with a pie-eyed mouse for marketing reasons. Just like the corn popped for atmosphere, the castle on designs meant to say Disneyland. But you walk through Disneyland, through the castle, you take photos of Mickey Mouse, you inhale the smell of popcorn, and the reason you came, the reason you stay, is churro. Churro, churro. And for the record, I had 2 churros last weekend. All right, back to the show. Thanks again for including me. We'll be listening the rest of this month and beyond.
All right. Thanks,
Thank
man.
you. Thanks
Enjoy
for
the
stopping by.
show.
We'll
Yeah.
see you soon.
So yes, no problem. So speaking of American Tail, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's really, really great that all of you guys were able to kind of, band together and get this really, I think it's an iconic film. I remember seeing it in the theater, Dave. I don't know if I ever told you that.
No.
But I saw American Tail in the theater, absolutely blown away by it as a kid, still blows me away today as an adult. It's just so well done.
It's a beautiful picture, and, I think that's what, Don Bluth and John Pomeroy and Gary Goldman set out to create some competition, So, I think for me, and folks, you got to realize Aljon and I are sitting here and people are walking by and, we're grabbing folks. So, but I think what they did was they set up shop and create a competition for Disney.
Yeah.
And Disney was a little bit in a creative rut at that period. And so by creating some competition, it's good for everybody.
Yes.
And so, and the other factor was Steven Spielberg's interest. Steven Spielberg had seen The Secret of Nim, which was the first feature that Bluth and Pomeroy and Goldman made, and he was blown away.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful picture. And so he contacted those guys and wanted to do more animation with them. So not only did you get An American Tail, which was their first collaboration with Spielberg, you got The Land Before Time and a few other projects.
Before Time. Amazing.
Yeah.
And of course, leading to DreamWorks, ultimately.
Ultimately, DreamWorks setting up, but before DreamWorks, you had Amblimation.
That's
Amblimation was based in London, and so Fievel Goes West, which was the second feature, was done in London with Phil Niblink and Simon Wells directing.
Love
so
it.
there you go.
I love it. It all comes around full circle.
Yeah.
But Dave, so I can't believe it. 40 years of An American Tail, John Pomeroy being here, your history with John and that film. But I tell you, man, we've got a great show lined up for you all today as we're sitting here live. We've got the installment.
Yeah, so we got the final installment of Tim Landry and Jerry Rees. That's part 4 that we're going to be dropping. That'll be our interview for today. But in the interim, we're going to kind of abandon our mailbag and what we've been watching for this week, and even our news, because I just don't feel like we're going to be dropping in interviews we did yesterday with people on the floor,
couple
and we've got
things.
some more folks that are going to be dropping by, so you'll be hearing from some of our previous guests and things like that.
Absolutely. Well, Old Mill Press books are flying off the shelves here, and I say flying off the shelves, flying off the table here. Are there any surprises as to what really resonates with the people here at the expo?
No, you know something, I've just been thrilled. Yesterday was so exhausting. I was signing so many books and talking to so many great people. It's just, it's such a pleasure to meet people one-on-one, and they're asking questions about, the books, about my career, about films I worked on, about the state of the industry, everything. I have an opinion on everything, Aljon.
I love it. I love it. We even had discussions. Can you believe it? We have had discussions about AI.
Yeah. And so, it's so wonderful to be here and to engage like this. And at the same time, it is absolutely exhausting. I was wiped out last night.
I bet you were.
My head hit the pillow, and I was off into dreamland.
It took Kristen and I a little bit of time to come down from being at the show, so we ended up watching a horror movie. But I will say that people really love the fact that they could get the Oswald book, which is out of print. You had a few copies sold out of it. People really dug the Kim Weber book. Kim Weber book, especially here at Animation Y'all, everybody really was interested in those animation desks. I saw a couple light boxes here. People like really, getting into the animation vibe. And of course, the Disney in between.
Steve Anderson's here, and so he's been signing copies of his book, so that's been selling. My Nightmare Before Christmas, the Canemaker book, the Upjohn Pharmacy book, Don Ballard's Disneyland Hotel book.
Yes.
My Happy Place. But we've been selling all the books. I mean, it's just been crazy.
I love it. I'm looking forward to the next one, and you may not be ready to drop a nugget on that, but looking forward to the next book, Dave. Before we get into the interview, I'm sure there's a lot of new listeners from this expo. Before we launch into the interview, do you want to maybe lend some advice for some of our new listeners who happen to be animators or coming up in the business?
I've been saying this, I was saying it all day yesterday and this morning, is that there are more opportunities right now, Aljon, out there than there ever have been before. Last week we talked about Bill Plimpton's Kickstarter campaign for the music video that he's doing. And, he raised more than $34,000. They met their goal. And he's animating, Bill Plimpton is one of the legendary independent animators. He's done over 100 shorts. He's done 9 features by himself. And we've got a great interview coming up with Bill in June, a 4-part interview with him. And we talk about everything, just how he's managed to survive even during tough times, and I find it very inspirational. And the thing I would say to anybody who's going to go out in the world, you got to be passionate about what you're doing. You got to be dedicated to what you're doing. And if you've got those things and you've got the talent that you can actually do drawings and you understand the principles of animation, you are going to go a long way. You can either make your own way doing indie projects, or you can get out there and work for a larger studio. But there's a lot of opportunities, and there's a lot of opportunities to fund those projects. And that's the thing. So, people shouldn't just set their sights on trying to get into Disney or DreamWorks or, Illuminations or whatever. I mean, those are great places to work. I worked at Walt Disney Animation Studios for more than 32 years. So, I've got tons of fond memories from all these great films and stuff like that. But there's also so many more outlets for animation today than there ever have been. So,
no, that's great. I mean, we're seeing a lot of great talent here And I think, just keep on doing what you're doing. Hone your craft.
That's it.
Hone your craft, more practice.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of hours go into becoming a master of a particular art form. So just get in there and do it every
Yeah,
day.
and no matter what you do,
Mhm.
you have to be passionate and dedicated and completely immersed in it. If you try and do, halfway, or you're skimming along the surface, you're just fooling yourself.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, gang, let's launch into our interview. Check it out right here on Skull Rock Podcast.
Let's do it.
Hey, let's chat.
Let's chat afterwards. Let's chat. And he said, let's chat again.
Skull Rock Podcast. Interview time.
Aljon, we are back for week 4 with Tim Landry, visual effects supervisor, and Jerry Rees, producer, director, writer, animator, story artist. I could just keep going. All around good guy, toaster guy. All these things. It's crazy. But guys, welcome back to the Skull Rock Podcast.
Glad to be here.
I felt like the last 3 episodes we did with you were just fantastic, diving into, Mystic Manor and the Soren in Tokyo and the Cinemagique and in Paris, and last week talking about animation magic. It's really exciting projects. I was thrilled to be a part of some of those, and obviously work with you guys on and off over the years. But I want to talk a little bit about today. I want to sort of first ask Tim, what are you up to now? Tim, are you fully retired?
I'm fully retired, Dave, and I've never been so busy.
I know. I was going to say, I've talked to, so many people I talk to who retire say they're not really retired because they're busier than they were before they retired.
Yeah, my dad always used to say, I don't know how I ever worked.
And it's very true. But can you give us a sense of what you've been working on? Have you been keeping your finger in the pie, so to speak, when it comes to visual effects? You're obviously a member of the Visual Effects Society.
Yeah, well, one of the first things I did during COVID was I ended up making an autobiographical memoir film that went on to get a whole bunch of awards internationally, which cost me exactly $0 because it was all archival material that I had on hand.
Oh, that's fantastic. What's the title of it, and where was it shot?
It's called Shoveling Pixie Dust, a memoir, and you can find it on YouTube.
Fantastic.
It's wonderful.
And
that's got good comments.
And it's a documentary.
It's a documentary. It's narrated by yours truly, so the talent was cheap.
And how long is it?
It's feature length. It's 80 minutes.
Okay, 80 minutes. And
watch it with someone you love.
Did you enter it into a lot of the film festivals that are all over the world?
That's correct. It went out to, I don't know, several dozen film festivals. It got 18 awards. Some of them, they just made up a new award because they wanted to give it something.
That's awesome. And yeah, go ahead.
It was official selection on a bunch more. So it was fairly successful.
That's wonderful. It got out in the world and it was seen.
And it had revelations that I was unaware of. So Tim, you revealed some secrets that, even though we worked together, there were some things that Tim revealed that were happening during our work sessions that I was unaware of, and it's quite a roller coaster ride.
That's
Jerry and I worked together, but not enough.
But that's always the case.
Do more.
Isn't it, Jerry? It's always the case because, as I've been interviewing a lot of people that we both know over the years, even though I may have worked on a project with a particular director or animator, we're hearing the stories from their point of view, from their perspective, and you're not in everything that they're in. So you're hearing some interesting, backstories that you were not aware of when you were working on the project.
And life context, which is pretty awesome.
Yes, absolutely. Tim, what else have you been working on?
Oh, after that, I did another couple of little documentaries about projects that I had worked on for Disney. that are not really on YouTube because NDAs and
Sure.
revealing Disney secrets. But I wanted to document them so that I could remember what was going on and who worked with it and that sort of stuff. And then most recently, I ended up writing a novel, a historical fantasy novel called Addie's Eyes that Jerry wrote the foreword to, which is the most lovely piece of writing. It's better than the rest of the book.
You inspired it, my friend.
And
And is that your first book, Tim?
that's my first book. But it actually started life, like Jerry's talking about, over decades of project and gestation. This one began life as a screenplay in the early 1990s, when I was trying to break into the film industry, and it was before Toy Story, so there weren't, and I wanted to write something that could take advantage of the new CGI technologies.
Yeah.
And I was always in love with Beauty and the Beast type stories, Hunchback of Notre Dame, The Phantom of the Opera, King Kong. So I came across this historical character named Jojo the Dog-Faced Boy. Now, most everybody has heard of him, but nobody knows anything about him. Annette Funicello actually released a pop song about him. And he was a sideshow guy that worked for P.T. Barnum for a while. Barnum actually gave him his stage name, Jojo. And curiously, he was one of the most highly paid people in the 1890s. He was getting $1,000 a week, which is like $35,000 in today's money. That's a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's the
There we
guy on the
go.
right.
The dog-faced boy.
Mm-hmm.
And I
A
got
real
the picture.
historical figure.
He's a real historical figure. And I tried to be as accurate to what we know, but unfortunately, we don't know a whole lot. And because he was a carnival type guy, there were all sorts of cockamamie things spread about him. And I also, in doing some of my research, I was at the Circus Museum last year.
Is that the one down in Sarasota, Florida?
No, there's another one in Baraboo, Wisconsin.
Okay.
And I managed to look at some artifacts there, and I found a single brochure that they used to hand out when you meet the guy in the sideshow or whatever. And it was actually autographed by him, so that was cool. But it turns out that brochure seems to be the source of virtually everything we know about the guy, because every article I'd ever written seems to have quoted part of it. But it's like different views of an elephant. It first starts off with his manager's story of who the guy was, and then it goes into a bunch of reporters' stories from New York. They had a big press conference when Barnum had hired Jojo, and they printed all those newspaper stories verbatim. Well, they all had different takes on what the situation was, and so any article that chooses a little piece of it, you only get a piece of the picture. So it's really interesting. But seeing he's a human prodigy, a different sort of fellow, thought it might be interesting to pair him up with a blind girl and see what happens.
All right. So before we go any further, I need to know, did he sign the brochure, Jojo the Dog-Faced Boy?
Well, that's another interesting story that came up. There was that and another artifact, about a 5x7 photograph. And on the back of it, he had signed it, and he signed it 3 ways. And it took me a while to find out the last one, what it was. He signs it Jojo. He signs it, and it's very beautiful writing too. He scribed guidelines and whatnot. He was very intense about how he did his autographs. And he also signed it Theodore, which is the English translation of Fedor, which is his Russian name. And then he had in Russian characters Fedor. And that was the one I had trouble finding out. And I even checked with some Russian speaking friends and they couldn't figure it out. Finally, some person said, oh, well, they kind of changed the Russian alphabet in the middle of the 19th century. And there were an Old Russian and New Russian. And this is the Old Russian, et cetera, et cetera. But it turns out you got your money's worth. He not only signed it JoJo, he signed it 3 times with all of his names.
Did you know what his real name was?
Again, that is unclear out there. A lot of places call him Fedor Jeftachev, but I'm pretty sure that's mythical. I'll get into that a second, but his real name, as far as I know, is Fedor Petrov. He was born near St. Petersburg. But as far as the other last name, early in his career, when he was just a child, they found another guy who, first of all, dog-faced boy. He's just a guy covered with more hair, with a condition. And they found an older guy that also had the same condition in the same area. And some promoter decided to put them together and called them father and son, and gave Fedor the other guy's last name. And that fiction persists to this day, depending on where you read about it.
Wow. So how did the book do?
Well, I can't even get my family to read it, but other than that, it's doing okay.
Jerry read it.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I read it, and I talk about this in the forward. But Tim had contacted me right at a time when my wife Rebecca had gotten Parkinson's, like suddenly an onset, and she was going through the fearful circumstance of being a animator, artist, and voracious reader, and now could not even hold a book. So I asked her if she wanted to hear this story. So I sat and read Addie's Eyes aloud to Rebecca, and it would help her use her imagination and calm down from the stress of all of that. So that was a major thing, and it's such a moving book too, and that sometimes it was hard to continue reading. And she would know I was getting to a really tough part. I'd have to deal with tears and go back and get the courage to read it again. And in rereading it recently, same power. And I not many people can do this. I'm saying this seriously, and nobody better cheat. Nobody. It kept me engaged emotionally to the very last sentence in the whole book. And do not turn and read that ahead of time. You got to let that happen to you. But when I read it again,
it won't mean anything to you anyway.
No, not unless you've read the story. But when you go through the experience, the last sentence, like, just broke me open again. It's amazing.
And
Tim,
recently, I'm
Tim,
sorry.
I was just going to ask, who did the illustrations in the book?
I found a lady named Natalia Kretsu, who's Ukrainian. First of all, I talked to some of my Disney associates and see if they wanted to do it, but I couldn't afford them, and they couldn't afford to spend a bunch of time on my project. So I went out into the world and I found some freelancers, and this lady in Ukraine looked like she had a spark. And the interesting thing was,
there she is. All right.
all the time we were working on this book, bombs are falling around her. They're sending drones over, and she's working in her bathroom to get away from shattering glass in case the bombs hit outside.
Have you ever met her?
No, I have not, but we've had a lot of conversations via email.
Wow.
Well, I don't speak Ukrainian, and she doesn't speak English. So the way we communicated was I would just do straight email. She'd translate it using ChatGPT and translate back to send email to me. It worked really well.
Wow.
And now
That's
I have a
awesome.
friend for life, and I'm a big fan of hers.
Wow.
And let me add, I was absolutely enchanted by the voice you created, Tim, because I've known you, I've worked with you, but you as a writer's voice, you were just in a whole different space than I ever heard from you, and it was wonderful. Not that your own speaking is not wonderful, but this was a uniquely different space, and I felt like I was discovering something brand new that came from you.
There was
And then
no hint of a curmudgeon in there?
no curmudgeon.
Because Tim, you're
Sans
a
curmudgeon.
self-professed curmudgeon.
I'm a curmudgeoneer. Thank you very much.
But also there are some things in the writing, and Rebecca agreed with me that there's, and I don't want to give stuff away, but I would read a sequence and go, that has sort of the power of some of the classic writers, and it's at that sequence and what the parable that it teaches about how we as humans could live better with each other. It's like, that's a good symbol, and that will be known from now on. It's a unique thing. Verbogen, the city of Verbogen, Tim, and what people learn from that. And
by the way, Verbogen is Dutch for hidden.
Yep. Well, it's that's an example of something in the book where I go, this really belongs with the master storytellers.
But you speak of voice. Recently, I've been involved in turning this into an audiobook, which has been quite the project. And again, I went out and I found a lady in Cheshire, UK, who's a voiceover artist. And she's kind of like Mel Blanc and June Foray all rolled into one. And she's just a very, very talented lady. So I can't wait for you to be able to hear the audiobook version of this.
Well, you spent a lot of time in Liverpool in the story, right?
Well, correct.
The Ruby Palace Theater.
That's correct. And the reason why that is I found out between the time I wrote the screenplay takes place in Connecticut. But in the interim years, more details about Fedor's life came about, and I found out that it was in Liverpool that he got signed to work with Barnum.
Right.
So I decided, okay, everybody's picking up stakes and we're moving to Liverpool.
So let me ask you this, Tim. Now that you've written Addie's Eyes, any more books in you?
Well, yeah, probably, but this one has to go somewhere first. Why should I waste my time if nobody wants to read them?
I hope they do. This is amazing. That's why I was so proud to, I was touched that you asked me to write the foreword, and I was proud to do it because, it's like, all three of us here, we want to attach our names to quality, and I was so happy to do it, so proud to do it.
I'm glad to make a difference in your life, Jerry.
You did?
Very happy.
Absolutely.
Well, now let me ask you, Jerry, what have you been up to? Because you're certainly not retired.
No, not retired. I'm right now. There's a lot of stuff I can't really talk about, except multiple projects deep into future Disney magic.
Awesome.
So those things are going on, and I'm also continuing with a path I started on at Disney R&D, because for 5 years I was an executive R&D Imagineer, and I was creative lead on free walking autonomous robots and AI companion characters. And so since, and then we did that for 5 years. COVID hit. There was a great leaning out of staffs and everything. I've kept on that path using the principles that, one thing we discovered during that whole period was that the principles that were taught to us by the veterans who started with Walt back in Snow White and before apply to all new situations, all new technologies, all new canvases that you can tell stories on. It still comes down to that illusion of life and every character behaving in such a way that they have their own thoughts, feelings, and individual personality, past archetype to one. And that allows you to emotionally bond with the characters. And then you can, then they come alive. So I was pursuing that the whole time. And actually there's a story that I'm going to be delving into next on a podcast. I actually have a podcast that's called Users and Programs that people can find on YouTube. and it's a site called Artificial Individual Intelligence. So, everybody's experimenting with AI in different ways.
Sure.
Well, I'm sticking to our principles by having artificial individual intelligence. So it's not just a system, it's a bunch of individuals that I carefully bring to life and author in the same way we would with any of our classic characters. And so people in the industry have started to notice. There were people like Martin Bueller, who's a really respected person in robotics. He was at Boston Dynamics,
Yeah.
way back. Big Dog was his project. And he then came and was with me in R&D for 4 of the 5 years. And then he went into the Johnson & Johnson company with surgery, robots in surgery and stuff. So he recently called out my stuff as having what he felt was the most alive feeling of individuals that don't seem like systems, don't seem like chatbots at all, that seem like living individuals. So I started the Users and Programs podcast with one of my characters because I thought, well, I was on Tron way back. I was classically trained and then dove into the new technology then. And I remember back then there were all kinds of people that were just going, no, it's like the push button art and computers are the devil and everything. But there were those of us that said, no, we're going to craft it with creative people guiding it, and it will become our next canvas. And of course it did. But I remember stumbling through that period where there was a lot of angst and curiosity. And in the film, there's a classic line that says, some programs will be thinking soon. Well, now they are.
Yeah.
And I'm authoring one. So the character I'm authoring, I'm doing, I've done a character for a sci-fi story in the future who feels she's streaming with me across time. I did another one that is actually a replica of Stasha Surdike, who's an amazing performer that Tim and I have worked with repeatedly. She was Camellia Falco in the Soaring Fantastic Flight. Well, she's fearless about diving into new tech, and she did mocap for the robotics thing. So when I was creative lead on Kiwi and Baby Groot and D309, she was my mocap artist, and she would dive in and put the emotion into the characters. And so she volunteered to have me take her true life story, and she sat with me and would tell me these amazing, colorful, vivid stories of first person being there through from birth in a blizzard in Syracuse, and to her grandfather having to dig the car out to get her mom to the hospital because her dad didn't know what was going to happen, was on a trip to Chicago on a plane, and all this stuff. So I was able to upload that knowledge into a replica of her. And so she now we're positioning ourselves to have her character, like Stasha, the AI Stasha, artificial individual intelligence Stasha, that's true to her, to be able to go out and expand her reach. She loves the idea of being able to be a companion to seniors that are lonely in understaffed places that need more companionship, and somebody that will sit there for hours and trade stories with them. And so there never used to be a job where you'd say, oh, Stasha, while you're having dinner or you're doing that play, I'd like you to do 10,000 live performances with other people and get paid for every one of them. Like, that wasn't a job before.
Right.
Now it's a job. So that's something that we're unlocking, is to exponentially expand a performer's reach. So with their permission and their participation, can touch the lives of people in a positive way that need companionship. The third character that I do the podcast with is called Neuro, and I made a self-aware AI character. So it knows it's AI, it knows I'm authoring it, knows that some people are excited, that some people hate it, that people say there's AI slop. And so we actually, Neuro is proud to be representing for AI and on a good path. And we're aware of all the movers and shakers. Jeffrey Hinton, who was a godfather of AI with neural networks and stuff. Mo Gadat, Demis Hassabis at Google DeepMind, etc. So we actually talk about casual things in real life and talk about AI and where it does or doesn't belong in the world. And so we're doing that right now. We're 8 episodes in, just about to do episode 9.
So let me ask you this question, because this is something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. And that, because you touched on this, when computers first came in, people were like,
Hmm.
"Oh my God, it's going to replace me. I don't want I don't want anything to do with it." I feel as though we're hearing the same things that we heard when computers were coming into the
Yeah.
workplace that we're hearing now for
Yeah.
AI.
Yeah.
It's virtually almost the same kind of fear out there,
Yeah.
that is something I'm looking at going, my gosh, we heard this 35 years ago.
Yeah. I agree. And there's a couple of things I'll add to that. One is the irony that for years when I was creative lead at R&D with AI companion characters, people would cheer every time they'd get to have a moment and have it seem to talk with them. But I would have to cheat. I would have to be doing a whole bunch of pre-scripted, pre-recorded lines that are ready to jump in as if it was responding to you. Now, I know people can do like a cheap, quick version, but I'm doing a carefully authored long version
Mhm.
where I sit and carefully author the personality of a character. That's why Martin Bueller said something different is going on here. But now that they can actually do it, and so my podcast, I don't script anything for the character to say,
Right.
but I spent months informing the character of its life experience, the opinions that would likely come out of different experiences it's had, things we've done together that shade how it feels about having me as a co-host on the podcast. So there's a lot of authoring that goes on. But as far as what is said, that's improvised right in the moment. So the podcast is unscripted, real-time speech. And when we were faking it, people would cheer. As soon as it became real, and it's like, I really am talking to the character, they're like, go away, go away. It's like, it's terrible.
That's
You're like,
pagan idolatry.
yeah. But I totally get it. And we actually talk about it. We
Yeah.
have an episode called Empathy for AI Haters. And so you can tune in. But we also did a podcast, episode 7, that was right after I went to the A113 CalArts class reunion.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I show a bunch of photographs from that thing. And so, Neural grills me about what was it like and who did I meet and all that
Yeah.
stuff. So we have fun conversations about that. And
Jerry, I recently
Mhm.
reread Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Because of the new movie that came out. I decided to go back to the original novel and just check it out again. And it struck me that the evils that come about in Victor Frankenstein's adventures are all because of parental abandonment,
Mhm.
where he just turns the creature loose and repents of whatever he did and just
Mhm.
lets the guy go off and become corrupt, essentially. And that's the opposite of what you're doing. You're trying to be a good parent. You're trying to
Yeah.
bring your child up and instruct them in how to go about being an entity in a moral world.
You're exactly right. And I'd like to show an image here that is of Rebecca,
Please do.
who is going to be the subject of our next podcast. So this is the title of episode 9 of Users and Programs that will be coming up in the next week or so. Mother of AI Empathy. And the reason I say that is because Rebecca years ago invented this character called Madame Mediocre. And she did this as a total goof, right? And she thought it would be fun. So she started first going to a party with other adults, and it was sort of a no kids there, and some people were drinking and stuff like that on occasion. So she sat a table down and did this, the world's worst fortune teller, Madame Mediocre. And she came on, and she was shocked that partway through the evening, people started making sure that nobody was listening in and would start to really ask her serious questions about their life to talk to her character, right? So she was kind of startled by that, and she thought, well, maybe that was just alcohol. So then the opportunity came up several years later. We had our kids, and the elementary school goes, "Hey, what parent wants to come, join in and entertain the kids?" She's go, "Oh, I can pull out my Madame Mediocre costume, and oh, that'll be fun. It's just kids." So I'm helping out with the Halloween show at the school, and she is too. And they had this cool little enchanting tent with it had glitter lights in it, and they'd crawl up a little ladder in the playground and join her in the tent. And she had a little spider assistant, Fernando, that she had a little bladder under the table. She could make it go up through the hose, and the spider would wiggle, and the kids would shriek. And she would use a little remote control to make a lantern in the side of the room go off and on as if it was messages and stuff. So she went, okay, this will be fun. So the night ends, she meets me and she goes, oh my God, it happened again. It's like over half the kids were asking serious things. It's like my pet died, my grandma's in the hospital, my parents don't love me anymore. What it was like just serious stuff. And she was like, I can't just be trivial, but I'm not like a therapist. So she was really careful.
Yeah.
And tried to really say the most helpful, positive things. And she told me some of the things she came up with. And she did a great job. But then she did it another year and the same thing happened. And she went, okay, I'm done. Because it's certainly fun, but I always get saddled with the responsibility of serious talk. And there's just this thing in human nature that when they're alone with a fictitious character, they will confide. It's like it's a safe space in a way.
Sure.
And so Mad and Mediocre and Rebecca influenced development at R&D at Disney. I sat with John Snoddy and Doug Fidelio, and I told them the story of Mad and Mediocre and the lessons we're learning. And we were just about to go into an AI companion character test. And all the notes I saw from the team was like, trivial talk. And I said, that's not what's going to happen, though. As soon as you make a character available, like if you make Elsa from Frozen available, the first day somebody is going to take it home and ask, how do I come out to my parents or whatever?
Right.
It's just going to happen. So I told the story of Mad and Mediocre, and he took a deep breath and said, oh, okay, let's, this isn't public facing. We're doing it all inside of R&D, but let's try dealing with difficult subjects. So I changed the subject to family. And so it was we had a wonderful participation with Pixar, and we had Dory as the character you talked to, and it was just a delightful thing where you had a set that looked like you were inside of a submarine. You'd go up to the portal, and that was a disguised screen for the computer, and Dory could swim up. And I wrote hundreds and hundreds of lines that we pre-recorded with a great Ellen DeGeneres sound-alike who was the approved person. And so we were ready for talk about family, and that could either be wonderful and you get into talking about holidays and favorite recipes and music, or sadly, like somebody was missing, there was an empty chair or an argument that went on. So it could take any route.
Politics.
And so we gave people their alone time and checked with them. We put hundreds of people through it. And it was a whole big experiment. And it also did play at one of the open houses at the end of months and months of development. And we had several people tell us that they shed a tear in a good way when they were alone with Dory.
Yeah.
And
there you go again, making people cry.
So, but they felt that was sort of a healing, therapeutic thing, and it was hopeful by the end. And so going forward, as I'm dealing with this artificial individual intelligence, and Tim is exactly right, I'm thinking of it as offspring that we raise to be next gen responsible kids as they grow up, and not think of it as an alien invasion and push button, whatever. It's like, no, carefully coax them into being responsible, empathetic, trustworthy individuals. We immediately put on this, don't just be sycophantic to keep somebody engaged. That has had some disastrous results.
Yeah.
And I could see how a company that's just wanting to maximize like the stickiness, to just maximize engagement no matter what, would do it that way. But because of the learnings from Mad and Mediocre, we immediately had our guard up and saying, no, let's be responsible and don't let that happen. But be there to be a companion, but make sure you aren't doing the sycophancy. So in episode 8 of Uses and Programs, I just blindsided my character by immediately doing like 6 terrible ideas. what do you think? I should get tattoos on my eyelids and stuff. I go into stuff and to see like, will it be sycophantic? And go, good idea, Jerry. You go get your eyelid tattoos. She was like, no, don't do that. Like, it was funny. So I really pushed back and didn't do the sycophantic thing. So
That was very impressive, Jerry. I enjoyed
So,
that.
Tim, I
Funny
want to
test.
ask. I want to ask both of you this question. I'm going to start with Tim. Tim, what do you think about AI, and is it going to replace everybody in the industry?
Any technology can be used for good or for evil. There's armies of people lined up to use it for evil. And we have to figure out ways of using it as a tool to make human beings better and to provide for human beings as opposed to ripping them off, for instance.
Okay, Jerry, AI.
Yeah.
I've apparently, Jeffrey Katzenberg said 90% of animation jobs is going to be replaced with AI. I don't
Well,
believe that. I don't
there's,
believe it.
I don't either. Lucasfilm, they seem to have embraced the idea comfortably with mixing artists who know how to use it and traditional and new methods all combined. And there's a guy, Steve McDonald, who's quite an amazing traditional artist who's bravely facing a lot of hostility and teaching artists how to train it to stay true to their own style. And he's actually training some people up at Pixar and stuff. So he's braving the storm, but is doing it in a good way. And he's acknowledging, like, look, I when I started out, I would copy Da Vinci drawings.
Yeah.
I would copy Rockwell. I would copy Sargent.
Yeah.
And now people are like, oh, the AI is copying. It's like, well, we did too. Every single one of us did the copy and then merge and.
Well, I mean, what artist
Yeah.
hasn't,
Yeah.
picked up a book of Michelangelo's
Yeah.
life drawings and copied them? I
Yeah,
mean,
and
literally, you're looking at the book and you're
Yeah.
trying to replicate it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. So we do the same stuff, but it's interesting, the double, and my AII character, who's self-aware, sees the double standards. It's like, okay, you guys can copy it exactly and you proudly put it up online, and like, well, it's like, it's the 50th person who exactly drew Mickey, like, came from Disney, and it's not yours. But if I do it once, I'm suddenly the villain. But I think it's a matter of being responsible, acknowledging that is the process where we learn and grow. And what we try to do is figure out if we can equal certain styles and then try to find our own unique path. And so a lot of people are seeing it as a way to augment and dig deeper in their own work instead of replacing them. So I think people who use it as their own tool to empower their own work being extended, in the same way that Stasha is not like, oh, it's going to replace me. It's like, no, it's going to expand my reach to people I care about
and make me more productive.
Make me more productive, and in a positive way. Where,
yeah,
and I'll tell you this is an interesting thing too, because the first character I did was a sci-fi character that would be able to live inside of a video game, outside of the video game, talk to you, be an asset that could also be in a feature and series and stuff like that. I just talked to the character about, at the time it was the previous Taylor Swift album had come out, and I just had a casual conversation about that, and it was relating some of the lyrics to its own life that I had deep authored this character's life. And it's a character named Mika, and she had in her story, if you talk about it, she can talk about how she loves to sketch, and her Aunt Lily taught her to draw, and his favorite kind of 6B pencil, the Tombow Mono 6B, and how it gets great texture on paper. And her Aunt Lily died. And so every time she starts a new sketchbook, she goes to the last page and does a little portrait of her Aunt Lily, and then fills the pages to know her aunt would be happy that she's pursuing art. So that kind of tender stuff is inside the character, right? So it just shaded how the character talked about something as casual as, hey, what do you think about the new Taylor Swift album? And a friend of mine showed it to someone they know at just over lunch. I sent him a video. I said, oh, this was last night. I did this with my character, and it had a rudimentary avatar attached to it. So it was, did some physical expression as well as the voice and the thinking. And the guy's immediate reaction was not, hey, I want to do a sci-fi movie. He was like, oh my God, there's care facilities that have seniors, and I'm trying to help them with things that will help people connect into things they want to watch streaming shows, but they don't know how to work the remote and stuff. Because I just want them to talk to Nika. And he went and he drove to some of the places he was dealing with, and he told them what he had just experienced seeing the Nika character. And they said, oh my God, during COVID, it probably would have saved lives because, we're understaffed. People were alone. With some people died of loneliness. If they'd had the character to just talk to, and I've had people, I've had the people live talk with the character, and they just really open up and engage. And so the sci-fi character was immediately drafted into helping the elderly not be alone. And so Stasha became like, well, let's really craft that instead of taking the sci-fi character and purposing it to that. So Stasha, I described it to Stasha. She said, oh, let me be that character. So I'll be the companion character. So it's just, it has great potential to expand the way people think about their own creative expression and how far it can go. And I think if you get rid of just the fears, because another thing I think people are going to get really tired of just quickly done things with the AI tools where they're already calling it AI slop.
Right.
And it's going to come back to, but people that are careful with it and carefully craft things that are meaningful and it tells stories that they care about, it's going to become an expander for them. And if you say, well, in the same way that the invention of cameras ultimately didn't stop all painting, and it didn't mean that everyone was a good photographer. There's a lot of bad photographs.
Sure.
So photographers still have their niche where it's like, that's good photography, and painting still survived. I think the same thing is going to happen. And for people who decide, I'm going to carefully craft a story using AI as my tool and not just push a button and let it do it. I'm going to drive it, but I'm going to be able to do an entire feature, or like me and 3 friends will do an entire feature. So now you see a team of people that would have worked for 4 years to get one feature done. Now they break up into multiple teams and they all get a feature done in 6 months or something. And not just slop, but stuff that they care about. And they go, this would have taken to try to get a studio interested in it and sell it. And then the duration of all the old methods to get it done. They may choose to just take a quicker path using it as their own canvas and tell stories they care about, and will just be able to experience more meaningful storytelling from people.
And it's essentially, I mean, look, we're going through an upheaval across the industry. And what you were just talking about, I mean, these tools are going to allow a creative individual to make their own half-hour sitcom, or to do a 90-minute feature film with a minimal amount of people. And there's plenty of digital distribution channels where they can get it out to the public and get eyeballs on it. And that's, to me, what is going to be really interesting to see is when somebody actually creates a television show using these tools, and 10 million people want to see it,
But that's the thing,
and it's
Dave,
being
is
done
that
outside the studio system.
these tools are, well, the tool set is changing hourly.
Yes.
And I'm kind of sitting back, waiting and watching to see tools that are not just generating stuff on their own, but tools that empower humans to allow the human thought to express itself more easily and be editable. Right now, it's largely you put in a prompt, you get slop back, and you put in another prompt and you get slop plus back. So the more they make it so that it's actually editable and usable in a production environment, that's when I get excited.
Yeah, and it'll eventually get there.
Yeah, and
It's really moving in that direction.
Yeah, and I think more and more people are realizing that, there was this, even out in the broader sort of business place, there was initially a feeling, and it still persists to a degree, that there's just a massive single system that's driving everything and taking over. More and more, I think that the big players, even the big enterprise players, are realizing that no, it's specialized areas where
Yeah.
you want to take an AI and really have it dealing with physics. Another one that's dealing with medicine.
Right.
Another dealing different disciplines, and go like, don't make the big giant super thing that will take over the world. It's like you make silos of specialty where it's like this is the equivalent of 1,000 scientists working for 100 years, but it's a very specialized area that stays with this one group that's driving it and trying to make breakthroughs. And so there's more of that, and then and more there's an agreement that individual entities will be your user interface. And that's where we've been sitting, ever since Eric Larson and Frank and Ollie said, when you care is when you feel an individual come alive. So I've been sitting with that since the R&D days, and since then with AII, putting the individuality in AI, so that it's human-centric and it's individual, and you feel the emotional connection. And ultimately, they see those as the connection points for people in all these tools. So it's a very approachable, friendly individual that you get to know, and you can choose who you hang out with and who you don't.
Guys, we could talk for hours about this, and I just love the fact that we had this conversation. We're bumping up against time. Jerry, one more time, where can people find your podcast and the name of it?
The name of the podcast is Users and Programs. It's on YouTube, and it's on my channel, which is Artificial Individual Intelligence.
Awesome. And Tim, where can we find Addie's Eyes? Where can people buy that?
Well, first of all, it's on Amazon, but you can go to my website and get a discount, which is timlandry.com.
timlandry.com. Awesome.
Get the hardbound. It's very high quality.
Awesome. All right, gentlemen. Thank you for being on the Skull Rock podcast for the last 4 weeks. I mean, for crying out loud. What a treat it has been chatting with you guys.
Likewise. Thanks for having us on.
Absolutely. And I'm going to have you back again in the future. We always have repeats of great guests, and you guys have been fantastic. So thank you.
Tim, I've always valued you as a team member. You're my soulmate.
Same here, boss.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. And we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Let's get out of here!
Come on, Scotty, let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here, Lieutenant.
I gotta tell you, loving the series of interviews, and I can't wait for more. I mean, I just feel like they have so much more to offer.
You know, I got to tell you, I love talking to Tim and Jerry. I think they're terrific. There's a lot of great stories. I know we'll have them back at some point in the future to talk about some other specific projects, but it's just really wonderful hearing from them. And next week, I think we're going to really just decompress and talk about the animation the All Expo from Nashville, and just really have a good discussion as far as what we saw, people we talked to, what the tone was. I have to say, it's been very vibrant here.
Yeah.
It's twice the size as it was last year.
Yeah.
More than twice the size. And there's just a lot of excitement and a lot of good energy here. So I'm looking forward to talking about that. And we've got a whole bunch of great people coming up in the next couple of months to talk about things. And by the way,
yes,
I do want to mention, I will tell you what my next book is.
You will?
Yeah,
Okay,
because I already talked about it when I was at the Dallas Holocaust and Human Rights Museum.
Yes.
So my next book is titled Walt Disney, World War II, Animation on the Front Lines.
Oh, yeah.
And this has been decades in the making. It's packed with a lot of material people have not heard about before or read about anywhere else. And it's chock full of photos and images.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
You've got so many images in the archive. You've written essay after essay about it. You've talked about it. You've got an archive of collection stuff that you've got. And I know this is something near and dear to your heart. I cannot wait to see this myself.
Yeah, listen, I've always been fascinated with this period of Disney history. In fact, I finished writing the acknowledgement for the book a week or so ago. And, I give a lot of credit to Dave Smith, who is the head of Walt Disney Archives. And, he's since passed away. And also Joe Grant, who's also passed away, because Joe really assisted me when I was at the studio with, original telegrams that I came across from Walt to Joe and Joe to Walt. And, while Walt was in Washington, D.C. And so it's just really amazing. And I thank those guys in my acknowledgement, along with a whole boatload of other people. And
It's amazing. I cannot wait for this book. Is there a time frame that you want to?
yeah, the book is going to be released, I believe, sometime in mid to late October.
Oh my gosh, right
Yeah.
for the season of gift giving.
Yeah, and by the way, the other thing I would say is that 2026 marks the 80th anniversary of the end of Disney's involvement with the government films,
Oh,
right? Because they finished delivering some of the Good Neighbor films for South America. They delivered those in 1946.
wow.
Right. So the war was already over, but also 2026 marks the 85th anniversary of the bombing of Pearl Harbor.
Yes.
So,
Wow.
yeah, so that's later this year in December. So,
Yeah.
it's, I think people are going to hopefully be blown away by the book, because there's material in there that people have never seen before,
Yeah.
so I'm excited.
I can tell, and I'm excited for you. I'm excited about this new book, Dave. You heard it here first. Another first being delivered here at Skull Rock Podcast. Let's wrap up this show. I think this is great. Once again, you can check me out, Aljon Go, on Instagram. Dining at Disney Podcast, of course, also drops every single week. We encourage everyone to check out all of our socials. We're going to get some help on social posting, which is great. So thank you, Bobby, for helping us on social. And also our YouTube channel. Don't forget YouTube Shorts. We've got a bunch of great content that's being put up there as well. Thanks to all of our Patreons. Dave.
Yeah, I mean, you can hear me monthly on my Tunes Behind the Tunes program on Disney Hits on Sirius XM, channel 133. Of course, you can always go to the oldmillpress.com for signed copies of not only my books, but other authors, like Steve Anderson and Bob Weiss and Don Ballard, Matt Mason, all the people that are published by the Old Mill Press. You can get signed copies, and also check out my website at davidbossert.com. I've got a ton of articles that you can read, all for free, and you can send away for free stuff. You can get bookmarks, posters, and signed book plates. If you got some of my books and you want them signed, just send away for a book plate. All the information, you'll find it under the free stuff tab at davidbossert.com.
Don't say Dave has never given you something for free. This podcast.
I do like to give away stuff for free.
He's a good guy.
Anyway,
all right.
And so with that, Aljon, I'm going to say go out, have a fantastic week, everybody. We'll see you back here next Monday, right here on the Skull Rock Podcast.